19th for the Board of Water Commissioners. In attendance is myself, Leonora Jenkins, Commissioner Stephen Girardi, Commissioner John Steinmetz, Jason Federico, Town Engineer, Fred Rogers, employee for Woodard and Kern, Brenda Douglas, Woodard and Kern employee. Brian Joyce is here, but he is not on video. He is DPW Director. And we have guests, the Lees and Patrick Kennedy. And we also have Don Piat, who is the Finance Director of the town.
Okay, well, we are certainly outnumbered. My name is Gary. This is my wife, Janice.
Hi.
And thank you for taking the time and thank you.
The manpower
Really?
to do this.
And thank you also for putting up with our lack of technical skills. Should I start talking first?
Please do.
Okay. As you, I'm sure know, because I sent a letter with the request for the abatement. We had an issue in the summer regarding our irrigation system, and we had a leak from an unknown source. I sent you all pictures, and hopefully you have those, and Brenda was going to get them around to you. Does anybody have them?
Yes,
we have them.
Okay, great. Let me go through the pictures first, and then I'll talk more. The first picture is a shot of our house. I've drawn a blue circle around to show you the area where the underground irrigation system developed a leak. Picture number 2 is basically the reason for picture number 1 is to notice the bushes that are there in the summertime. The picture number 2 is what it looks like right now, which is rather boring, but you'll see that there is vinca or whatever as a ground cover. Picture number 3 is intended to show you that this is an underground piece of the irrigation system. There's no way that one can see it. So if there's a leak, if you notice on picture number 3, there's a little piece of metal. That was where the section was cut out and replaced to fix it. And then picture number 4 is just a further view of picture number 3. The thought being that this was a leak that we were unaware of. As you can tell from the first picture, it's not someplace on a hill where leaking water goes across the driveway.
Nothing came down the driveway. There was no puddling that we could see.
So basically this was undetectable. The reason that we found it, in fact, was I pulled a dandelion or something out of that area and the water started coming up and I said, whoa, this isn't right. So that's how we uncovered it. When we looked at our bill, we were flabbergasted that it was, normally it's around $300, $400 for that time period. It was about $3,000.
And we had a water, somebody from your water department out, and he could tell exactly when it started, when it was resolved. And he said, ordinarily your department calls when they see that high of a water increase. So we never received a phone call. We're not irresponsible homeowners. I mean, we have not been away anywhere overnight the entire year. And I mean, the irrigation system was in the ground when we purchased the home 3.5 years ago, but we have rainfall that services it every year. So it was turned on back in May, prior to the leak, without any issues when he came out to turn the service on. We have, again, this is not a lawn area where it would have been hit by a lawnmower or a plow or anything like that. We don't know how it happened.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
We weren't neglectful.
Have you paid the bill?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if there's any insurance coverage?
Yes.
It does not cover it.
We asked
bill
our
has been paid?
agency.
Hold on,
And,
hold on,
I'm
please.
sorry.
What? I'm sorry?
The bill has been paid.
Yes.
The bill hasn't been paid.
All right. And have you talked at all to the irrigation company that turned it on in May to ask them if they did any pressure testing when they turned it on or anything like that?
I did.
We didn't ask that specific question. It looked like a hole in the pipe. And this, I doubt that was an issue about pressure testing because it had been on for 2 months before this spike in the bill happened.
Brenda, what was it water usage before?
I'm sorry?
No, asking.
No, the normal water usage for that property, just say for that quarter, 4,800. 1737. Yeah, 3,500, 4,800 is the high, 44 is the low for that same time period. And they were charged 28,800 in usage.
Mr. Lee, can I ask you, when you noticed, you pulled the dandelion up, you saw the water coming out, what did you do?
I dug in to see what was causing it. I saw the little hole in the thing in the tube, and I went and shut the system off, and we called the irrigation service.
It's rainfall, and he came, I think, in May to turn the system on, and he always goes around and, checks all of the.
Yeah, so it's checked every year.
It's not a large system. It's not a large lot. It doesn't have much of a yard at all.
There were only 1/4 of an acre buildable. Most of it's rock.
So you had a high usage bill
Right.
last quarter.
Yes. Which is obviously not anything. We didn't build a pool or
didn't
have
put in-
any guests. I
we
mean,
did-
it's COVID. Nobody has guests.
We didn't put in new irrigation or
Nothing.
anything. It just.
Nothing was different.
We knew that there had been a leak, but we didn't know until the man from the water department came that how long it had been going on.
Right.
And then I got the bill and I called Brenda and I was just,
Yeah, I mean, if you get a lot of usage like that, I mean, that had to be puddling. I mean, that's
Well,
a lot.
It's good soil. Basically, as you can tell from the area, it didn't puddle into the driveway. It didn't puddle into the stonework. When I uncovered it, there was maybe an area, maybe a foot and a half by about 9 inches that looked exceedingly wet. However, it was covered by vinca,
and
or
the
that
Vinca-
ground cover.
The Vinca looked especially nice this beginning of the summer.
It's very healthy
And
vinca cover.
there's a little, I guess it's a red maple, and it was also very healthy.
No, so it was not visible.
Yeah, there's one thing, like, I work for an electric utility company. Like, anything beyond the electric meter is responsibility of the homeowner. So the water department really, is not the plumbing folks for the residents. This, I'm just looking at it as a perspective that. No, I get it. You can't see some of the water pipes in the ground, but.
Well, we didn't even know that you guys had an abatement procedure, but we figure that's great. And if the abatement procedure exists, I would think that it would exist for something like this, where this was an undetectable thing underground that we did it as soon as it was found out, we fixed it. So I would think that, that abatement would apply.
And we've been very conscientious about water usage. I mean, when the town asked us to shut down, watering, for the summer because of drought or anything else, I mean, you can check our records. You can do that immediately. But the water department meter reader itself, he came out, and again, he could pinpoint the exact date that it started and exactly when irrigation came out, rainfall came out and repaired it. And he said, generally, we do call when the usage is so much higher than usual.
No, that's not the real norm. I mean, it's just me. I mean, I call as many people as I can, but unfortunately, it's not an automated system.
Oh,
And
and given,
Well,
you
then-
know, the year and
The-
the
well,
time.
with COVID too, I can honestly say that a lot more people used a lot more water, including irrigation, because everybody's home. So there isn't anything set in place that we have as a water department that would automatically, if you were over a certain amount, that you would get a call. I just
I
want
would
to be
say-
that
Yeah, I would say that our being home is, we weren't home any more than we were before because I've been retired for about a year and a half. So, I mean, there are only two of us and we have been consistent in life for the last year and a half, 2 years, as far as that goes. See, one of the thoughts that I have is that, you know, we didn't really use the water per se. It's not like we were doing car washes or anything. We got no benefit from it. It kind of came out of the ground, went back into the ground,
The
kind of a
Vinca,
no
like
harm,
I
no
said, the
no
Vinca
foul.
looked better, but
So,
Yes, that is one thing that I noticed about your pictures. There seemed to be a swath that was extremely green. And on either side of it was relatively brownish looking.
oh, that's gravel. It's a gravel driveway.
do you mean,
there, too.
which picture are you looking at? Which number?
Oh, I'm not sure which number it is. I don't have, because I have to get out of what I'm in to look at it.
Oh.
But
Well-
looking at your second or third picture, you could see without the pipe showing, the first one after your house.
With the house in it. Yeah,
No,
there's
not with the house, right? Not with the house, the picture.
Not with the
of you?
house, the next picture, you don't have it dug up yet.
Well, let me tell you what you're seeing.
There's basically a swath of green.
Well,
And then on either side, it looks like it is relatively dry.
Let me tell you what you're seeing. Basically,
It's difficult to tell.
it's
yeah.
difficult to tell, but basically it's a Vinca area. The brown circle to the top right is basically a bush that we cut back. It's the bush that you see in the very first picture that's on the corner. It grows to about 2 feet.
It's a mum.
It's a mum. So, I mean, we cut it back. So that's just a
back.
cut back
And
bush.
then there's gravel on the
Yeah,
far
they're looking
side.
at the brown part.
And then there's the
Yeah, no, I was looking at the ground. I wasn't looking at any bushes. I was just looking at the stuff that's right around the Vinca. But
driveway
that-
there. But again, there was no runoff. And as you can tell, there's no stone holding water in place or anything. So it must have just seeped,
Yeah, it's
back
just
into the ground.
A little corner of a garden that got cut back, and I took this picture in the fall, actually in the winter, maybe 3 weeks ago. The other picture of the house is from a year ago, in the spring or summer when the plants were blooming. So the picture you're talking about is just a winter picture with cut back plant in it.
Yeah, well, I'm terribly sorry that this has happened, and we have a number of people that have had problems with irrigation systems. Now, can you imagine our dilemma if everyone who comes to us says, well, I had an irrigation system, I had absolutely no clue at all about anything, and it just happened, so can you give us an abatement? Like, and we'd be running out of money very shortly, or else we'd have to excessively increase our bills in order to sort of have a built-in insurance for people who are having problems on their property.
If I could, I hear what you're saying. However, it's not like you're manufacturing the water and then selling it. You're basically, if more water goes through my house, it comes from the ground up through your pipes into the ground, and fine, you gotta keep the pipes repaired. But I don't think that, it basically, from my perspective, I got no benefit from this extra water, and you got no extra cost from this water. And
That's a problem, that what you're saying, because we're basically manufacturing the water that you get in your house. If you go to take a look at what our costs are at our water treatment plant, in order to provide that water for you, we have a whole process it goes through. We have chemicals we are purchasing, plus we have the excess of the after effect of the sludge that we had to dispose of. And
This
we
doesn't
have
go
to
through the
maintain
sewer.
everything to bring it to you.
This doesn't go through the sewer, right? This does not
We're
go.
not talking sewer, we're just talking water.
Okay, you can talk, you know, you're just talking water.
No, if anybody wants to jump in to explain how the water process works better than I can.
I would like someone to jump in and explain why you have an abatement process. Why do you have an abatement process? If this kind of a situation doesn't qualify for abatement, why do you have an abatement process?
We generally, I mean, there are situations where we do grant abatements, sir. Generally, we get lots of irrigation claims where a hole goes into an irrigation system. And I don't remember one in which we've granted an abatement. Here, clearly, you're saying it was working fine in May. Somehow a hole got in there. Somebody's responsible for putting that hole in there. It just didn't happen. Who is it? I don't know. You probably know better than us. But we didn't put the hole in it. And it does cost us a lot of money to make the water. We have full-time staff, oftentimes working multiple shifts.
Gone. They're gone.
They left.
I believe so.
Looks like they
That way.
left.
Unless something happened and
No, they're gone.
Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to, if I say it right, not to approve the abatement for 110 Beach Street.
Second.
All in
Wait.
favor?
no, wait a
Wait.
second. Wait. What was the motion you made?
Not to approve the
Not to
abatement.
approve. Okay, I just wanted to
Yes.
make sure I heard you incorrectly.
Okay, so we'll do that. I'll do one more time. So I'll make a motion not to approve the abatement for 110 Beach Street. Did I get the address correct?
You got it right.
That was Steve Girardi who did this, John Steinmetz second, and all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's a unanimous vote. Okay, now, do we have Patrick Kennedy here with an abatement?
Yes.
Hi, Lee. Hi, John. Hi, Steve.
How are you?
Patrick.
Brenda sent me the agenda, and I just had a back and forth with her about the agenda, and it didn't have my abatement request specifically listed. I don't know whether you guys have had an opportunity to review the materials I submitted or not. But
We have, and I think we can
I have
take
no
it up.
problem with you tabling this because it's not on the agenda.
I think we should proceed with it. We have it. I think we have commission comments at the end. We can take it up.
One note, they're back. I don't know if we want to let them back in or not, but they did connect back in.
They're welcome to attend. Yeah.
Beach Street is back.
It's- Sure, we should. Let them back in.
I just did.
While we're waiting, does anyone have any comments? I'm prepared to discuss Patrick's abatement. I don't know if Lee and Steve
Oh, well,
are.
wait a second. Let's finish with Mr. Lee here first.
Okay.
When he got cut off, he were talking about the abatement policy. Now, when I first came on the Water Commission, it seemed like abatement was a historical fact for all water companies. And since I've been on in the last decade, most of the water companies have gotten away from that policy, except in some extreme cases, because they have discovered that with everyone that was coming with abatements, they just could not afford to abate any problem that the homeowner had in their home, whether it by negligence or ignorance, and still maintain their systems. Because with all the new regulations that have been coming down from the state and the federal government, it has gotten extremely expensive to produce water. It just doesn't pop out of the ground. We have a surface water system that is one of the most expensive. If you compare our system to other towns are on well water. And well water does not need the treatment that surface water does. We are very fortunate in Cohasset that the town fathers back in the 1970s found that we needed to have a reservoir, and we built that in the water treatment plant. Most towns around here are on permanent water restrictions from April or May through October. We do not go through that, but part of the wonderful aspect of having this water is the cost. If
Can I
that
say-
answers any of your question, Mr. Lee?
You guys are muted. Mr. and Mrs. Lee, you're muted.
I just want to update also, Mr. and Mrs. Lee, when you went off the call, we didn't know if you hung up or if you got disconnected, but in any event, we thought the discussion was over. We took a vote and we denied your request for abatement.
Okay,
You have a right to, I guess, ask for reconsideration if you'd like to.
how do I,
This is a
what I would like
huge-
to do.
This is a huge
Okay.
amount of money.
They know that. What I would like to do, and thank you for putting up with our technological problems. I would like to appeal to wherever I can appeal to, because it doesn't make sense to me. And I also would like to look at some past things. You guys mentioned that you don't care about irrigation systems, but I tried to look up some of your past hearings and your past minutes. And it's very hard to do, but I wanted to see if in the last number of years, anything similar came up. And the only thing I came up with, because your system only goes back 1 year, was something related to Cook Estates. And they said that they may have a leaking irrigation system. And I didn't know whether or not you guys gave any relief in that situation. I'm just trying to find comparables, because I think that I find this to be mildly absurd. I can appreciate that you guys have to make money on what you do, but I mean, arguably there's a profit in there. I mean, we're not looking for $3,000. We're looking for something reasonable, some bit of help, because this is obviously
A big amount of
nothing
money.
that we used to our benefit. And we apologize that we had a leak, but it's if we had a leak in a room in the house, maybe you would be treated differently. I don't know.
And maybe your
But-
insurance companies are similar to ours. They don't do anything for the outside. It's, the house only. There's nothing about, the grounds or the land. So that we have absolutely no relief there as well.
But I thank you for your time. I understand you are done talking to us. And if there's another avenue that we have to pursue it, I'd love to know what that would be.
I think, we're not, when you say we're not talking to you, that's not correct. We did talk with you.
I didn't say that.
I misheard you. I apologize. I thought you said that we weren't.
That you've already taken a vote.
You've
and
taken
thank
a
you
vote.
Thank you.
All right, my misunderstanding, and I apologize for that. I think the process, if you wanted to ask us to reconsider, you could ask us to reconsider, and then you could determine if you have any other rights of appeal, but that's our jurisdiction, is what we can do.
Okay, and one other thing, in answer to your response of we have to make a profit. No, we are not a profit-making enterprise. We are covering our cost barely. Our recovery fee that is in your quarterly bill does not cover the cost of the loans that were taken out under the direction of town meeting back in the 70s. So we have a lot of costs that we have to maintain, plus our infrastructure.
Well, my point really was, my point was that my expectation would be that the 3,000 or whatever the usage was, the 28,000 usage that we had compared to the 4,000 usage that we had. I don't know, maybe that all cost you, maybe my 4,000 cost you too much. And maybe the 28,000 just cost you too much. But it just strikes me that this should be an abatable situation. But apparently, I see no reason. I appreciate your time, but I see no reason to talk to this group again, because you've said no twice.
Have you given relief to places like this Cook Estates or to other irrigation?
We have not given relief to the Cook Estates. And, and just think, presume you left your door open in the middle of winter and your heat bill went up. Would you look for an abatement from your gas company or your oil company because there was a problem with the door that flung open or a window
If they
that?
had an abatement process, I probably
They
would.
But,
Yeah.
but also our insurance would cover a faulty door, but insurance companies
Would it?
cover anything about.
I don't know if we have to get into insurance coverage issues right now, but thank you for your time. It was nice to meet you. I'm sorry that you're disappointed with us, but I enjoyed talking with you, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, Patrick.
Yes. Hi. John said he was willing or wanted to go forward. I don't know how the other two commissioners feel.
Sure.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So I submitted an abatement request to an internal. I'm learning about your view of abatements. I've never.
I don't know if anybody else is.
2 years.
All right.
Yep.
I'm not hearing you very well, Patrick. You're garbled.
Okay, it's probably my internet coverage or reception. Is that better if I get closer?
You might want to turn off your video.
Try turn it, yeah. Now try speaking.
Okay, how's that?
No.
No.
I've never had this happen. I do a lot of Zoom calls and it's not background noise. It's you getting double,
It sounds like a reverb.
you getting a reverb.
Patrick, why don't you log out of the meeting and come back in?
Okay, while we're waiting for that to see if he can successfully come back in. Don, do you have a few words to say about our financials before we get into anything higher than like budget?
Yeah, good afternoon.
Hi, Dawn.
You all should have my December reports.
Mhm.
Consistent with the prior months, we're in good shape. On the revenue side, we're about 59% of the budget, 59.7. The big driving force in our revenues right now are the usage charges, which are at 82%. And I believe year over year is almost 25 or 26% higher than last year. Again, we know there's been a ton of usage over the last 8 months, I believe. So that's expected, along with more than normal hookup fees. We're at 204% there. And we still haven't billed for the town hydrant fee and the hydrant distribution charges. So through December, I think we're in really good shape. And then on the operating side for the expenses, we're only at, I think 42%, which is in line with where I would expect. 41.7, we continue to be conservative year over year with our budgeting. So through
Mhm.
6 months, I think we're right where we want to be. Another conservative year. We don't know what will happen over the next 6 months, but at this point, definitely in great shape on the revenue side, and I foresee the expense side to be the same.
Okay, it looks like our other revenue is up considerably, and that is from the charges from the house sales.
Yeah, all the final readings. It looks like we've had a ton the first
Yeah.
half of this fiscal year.
You know, well, these are just items that we just cannot predict at all because one never knows whether or not any new houses are going to be coming online or how many houses are selling. Okay, it looks like Patrick Kennedy may be back on. Patrick, do you want to try?
Okay, let me try again. How's that?
Much
That's
better.
good.
Okay, let me try the video then. Okay, is it still clear?
You
That's
good?
Okay, so I didn't know how you guys felt about abatement requests. I didn't even know that you had an abatement process like the prior applicant until I looked at your regs after receiving a very large bill, considerably higher than what we've experienced over the 22 years that we've lived here, and never before had a water leak that resulted in a very large bill. So we didn't know about the leak, didn't know about excess water usage until we got our bill. I believe it was November for the 3 month quarter ending in October. immediately called Brenda, talked to Brenda, thought it might be related to a water meter burst issue, but it turned out that that was in the prior quarter and had been addressed in the prior quarter. I've submitted a form, completed form, that's in your regs, along with a background statement about how it was discovered, what we did. The toilet was immediately, it has been repaired. I did some simple math to determine what the excess usage, in my view, was during that time period. Our bill went from probably in the round figures of $350 to $400 between water and sewer per month, up to this bill was $1,300 and some odd dollars, $1,349. We paid that bill in full, timely. And as I said, I didn't know that there was an abatement request till I looked at the regs and saw it, and then submitted the information that I submitted on January 9th or so.
Did you also submit one to sewer?
I did. They had the same, essentially same criteria. They put it immediately onto their although it didn't appear on the agenda, and then decided to table it. Essentially, there are two sewer commissioners, Bill McGowan and Wayne Sawchuk. Neither of them had read the submission prior to the meeting. And neither of them seemed very aware that they even had an abatement process or regs. They did table it to further consider the material submitted, and they also expressed that they wanted to hear about the outcome of your board's consideration of the abatement request. So that hasn't been acted on. And their administrator mentioned that she had spoken to Brenda, and that Brenda had said that abatements are very, very rarely granted. She did report that to the sewer commission.
That's true. We do. I mean, there are situations where we have granted abatements, and we do have some discretion as commissioners to do so. And as we heard in the prior matter, we've never, in my time on the commission, never granted one with the irrigation system, but we have at times when there's hidden leaks in the house. So I'd like to hear what Steve and Lee think.
Okay, the only one that we have abated with a hidden leak in the house was a very elderly woman in her mid-90s who was deaf and on a fixed income.
There have been more.
No, I mean recently.
Yeah, recently, but yeah, no, there have been others.
I mean, if you look back at our history, we used to give abatements quite a bit. We had that, oh, well, once in a lifetime, but we kind of dropped that out years ago after we realized what the cost was to our operation, as did all the other water systems. Having been to a lot of Mass Waterworks Association meetings and talking to other people in the business, that's basically what's going on right now. Abatements are few and far between.
And so, question for Patrick: the toilet that was in question, was that a toilet that you guys you don't regularly see or use? It's like other side of the house, like for
Yes,
example.
that's correct. It's what it is we have a 4-bedroom house in which this was the toilet in question is a small bathroom that is what was the original master bedroom of the house. And it's kind of on the front west side of the house. Our bedroom and most of and it was in more frequent use when we had our 2 children living in the house. Both our children are now adults and have not been living in the house during this time period at issue. My son is in Denver, Colorado. My daughter is now in Providence, Rhode Island. So when back before they moved out, this was a bathroom that was used more regularly. Someone was using in and out of the bathroom more frequently. It's now not a bathroom that we use very often, if ever. My son was home for a week, 10 days over Christmas. It was used then. But other than that, it's off to the side.
It's out of sight, out of mind.
Don't use as much.
I
Yeah,
mean,
out of
is
sight, out
there
of
any
mind.
water running through your house?
I did not hear it. I mean, and this is the year that I was home. And I can
Yeah.
honestly say, when I opened that bill, I was shocked. I was really surprised at how big the bill was. And I called immediately, probably within a day, called Brenda and said that meter must have flowed through, it must have triggered somehow, because we had a burst meter right at I don't know if you guys know about that or not, but back in, I guess it was before the July time period. It must have been in June. We
May
had,
24th.
yeah, it was underneath our house, thankfully not a finished area of our house. And we had to immediately have the Water Commission come out, look at it, and they determined that it was their meter that had failed. They immediately replaced it. It was all well and good. I was very thankful that Water Department was so responsive. So immediately my thought was somehow that had triggered an increase in our bill for this quarter, but she said, no, go look at all of your appliances, toilets and appliances that are attached to water. So the obvious was either our refrigerator, which has a water feed, or the toilets. And sure enough, it was this one toilet. We did what she said, which was put dye or food coloring into the upper bin, and we could see that it was flowing through.
I'd like to run one thing by the other commissioners just for consideration. As with any decision we make, we have some discretion. And I think one thing that we can consider here is that this is a request from both Diane and Patrick, who have volunteered, dedicated thousands of hours to our town over the years, probably tens of thousands of hours. And this is a pretty small amount compared to the amount of time they've given to our town.
I just want to say that I'm not seeking any special consideration. I would ask the commissioners to just apply your bylaws and guidelines evenly, regardless of identity of applicant.
Okay.
I appreciate that, John, but I just want to make this, I want to take that consideration off the table.
Okay.
And while I'm not elderly and I can't claim to be a fixed income, I can claim to be hard of hearing.
So Patrick, what happened in May with the water department part, with the water meter? My internet got a little frozen.
So our house has an unfinished area underneath. It's a foundation built over ledge and dirt floor. So the water, where the water service comes into our house, is underneath our house. And I was doing some things around the yard and getting some stuff that we store underneath the house out, and I heard a noise way up underneath, crawled up in there and saw that there was water just coming out of where the pipe comes into the house. And it was the meter. And immediately called the water department, and they immediately came out within several hours and determined that it was the meter that had failed. They had to shut off the water at the street and replace the meter, which they described as an old style meter.
Okay.
So.
Any
The water that went through there, Steve, just to let you know, there wasn't enough water that went through to even make it billable. So when he heard it, it must have happened like right then and there.
Yep.
And we were able to get out there quick enough to where it's just the base of it failed.
Okay.
And that led to a recommendation that we have some plumbing work done to create better shut-off valves on either side of the meter, which we're going to have done. Because of the shut-off valve was so old that I'm sorry, I forget his name, the woodworking guy that came out said, yeah, he said that he didn't really even want to throw it because it could break. And so he shut off the water at the street.
Now, unfortunately, I feel uncomfortable to set a precedent with you. And I think probably what we should be telling people in these days of technology, that there are systems available, apps that they can have on their phone, that they can detect whether or not they're having any excess usage of any of their water, as is done with power, gas, and everything else. Because I know several people who have that app.
We don't have that capability currently in Cohasset.
Really?
No, you have to go to a fixed network meter reading system in order to have that. So like Steve's meters read electronically and he gets a reading every day. You can track it that way. Same with the city of Boston, but Cohassets are only read when Connor reads them. So therefore, you'd have to go down and manually read your meter if you wanted to read your meter every day.
You mean there aren't any, because I know there are systems.
You can get a thing and put it in your house, but it's
You
not.
could put it in your house yourself.
Yes.
No.
Steve, any thoughts?
So Patrick, what was the, I'm trying to go back into my email. What was the abatement amount you're looking to accomplish?
Your form asks for cubic feet. It doesn't ask for a dollar amount.
Right, so he was charged.
I did a rough calculation. I think it was 6,300 used in that quarter versus our average of 1,600 over the prior year per quarter.
So he requested 4,700 cubic feet.
Right.
Uh, 27 times. Which, if I just use the higher tier rate, which it wouldn't be all higher tier, it would be a total abatement or in the proximity. All right, hold on, let me just do this right. 63.
I think maybe you should use a lower rate just to be conservative.
Yeah, I think I sort of calculated around 377.
$377.
Guys agree on that? I'll put it in.
Yeah.
I know, I hear Lee's point. So, I'm okay with it. I don't know if you are, Steve, or if Lee, you have reservations.
I'm okay with it.
Wait, okay, with what? Let's be specific.
With abating $377.
Okay, I'm not okay with abating $377, to make that clear.
Okay. Well, why don't I make a motion? We can vote on it.
Sure.
I make a motion that we abate $377 on the abatement request from Patrick and Diane Kennedy.
Any discussion? Any second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No. Okay, looks like Patrick, you got a 2-to-1 vote.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate all of you, actually, and I appreciate the service you do for the town as well as your consideration. I do think if abatements are something that are so disfavored and the trend is so disfavored on them, that some consideration should be given to either amending the regs or maybe repealing the regs, or maybe issuing a policy statement about abatements to.
We did issue a
on the
policy
website.
about abatements previously. I remember that about 3 or 4 years ago. That we were not issuing abatements for anyone if it was negligence or ignorance of the situation.
Well, I appreciate your vote and I'll stop speaking.
All right, have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Let's continue on with the budget information. Jason or Don, who wants to do that one?
I can, I have the stuff opened up on my screen here, so.
Okay,
We sent the spreadsheets out to this afternoon.
Mhm.
Sorry for the lateness of that. We were kind of working on it up to that point.
Okay,
So,
comment I have about your spreadsheet that you sent out this afternoon.
Yep.
Is that Don did round up the indirect costs, so it didn't have cents in it.
mine doesn't either.
The
Lee,
one I
your
have,
computer doesn't like spreadsheets, or your
Ah.
iPad doesn't.
okay.
Because as you can see, it's at 132, 234. Yes, there's 68 cents decimal place in there,
That's gone, all right.
but it doesn't show up in the actual.
That's amazing, because yep,
fields. So this is the no increase budget. So Brenda worked up these numbers based on how she had been doing it previously on the revenue side. We included 2 water service connections to be conservative. And we agreed on the 62 grand for the rental income. There were some minor changes to the operating budget, the biggest one being the increase in contracted services. And we added in Don's new calculated indirect costs. In order to balance the budget, given the debt service, we had previously voted to carry all roll-off in as capital. But in order to balance it, I had to take $100,000, $100,011 out of that transfer to get us to a balanced budget. So that's the no rate increase budget proposed.
Jason, I didn't have a lot of time to look at the one you sent. Is this similar to the one we had done? I just didn't have enough. I didn't have an hour to look at it.
Fairly similar, yes.
Can you point out like maybe the differences? I just
The indirect cost was one. Which one did Lee send you? When did you get one from Lee?
this.
Yeah, it was basically this one,
Yeah.
Who's this? Okay.
because it was the indirect cost that was slightly higher.
Okay.
And then I know some people might have a question about the chemical cost and the labs. And to make sure we understand why we did that is because we are now doing testing on Peppermint Brook that used to be done 9 years ago, and we are retesting. And also because of the PFAS at the well field. Remember when we all voted back in the fall that, hey, isn't this great? The state is going to give us free testing. So we got the free testing. So now we're under mandate to test monthly for the well field and then quarterly for Lily Pond. And with the state tests, goodness only knows if they're going to remain the same or if they are going to escalate in price. Knowing the state, I would not count on anything remaining the same. And I'd rather be, let's say, not conservative, but make sure we have enough in that line item to cover those tests. And then, of course, we might be looking at other increases. We increased our fuel costs. Looking at the fuel costs every day, I see them going up, considering the business that I'm in, and I get a daily readout of costs going up. So that's why we increased that. And also with our utilities. Other than that,
So we increased electric, heat and phone by 3%, sludge removal by 3%, contracted services went up legal engineering by 5%. Contracted services by 5%. That's the change in Woodard's contract. Gas by 3%. Lab costs by 12%, and indirects went up by 2%.
So I do have to make just a comment or two about the whole transfer to capital line. So a couple years ago, we had talked that we're going to try to be a consistent funding of capital. So what that means is each year that the amount of debt service decreases, that amount should be added to our transfer. So last year we transferred 300,000, or not really transferred, we used 300,000 to fund capital out of our rates. That 300 was actually supposed to be 365, but I didn't make a big deal. The 65,000 was moved among various operating expenses to, make those budgets more conservative. The amount we should be contributing towards capital within our current rate structure is now 455. So as Jason mentioned, he pulled 100 grand out of that transfer to balance operations. Now, if this is our budget proposal for no increase, that's 100,000 a year now that we can't use for capital. And based on a history of turnbacks, I think we can sharpen the pencil a bit more and maybe not pull out that whole 100 grand. I'd be a lot more comfortable with half. I'd love to see no pullout of that number. But, just two specific items that I'm looking at now of milfoil. And again, I'm sure there's some explanation as to why we need it, but I would need that understanding. So one is milfoil. We've consistently been budgeting 50 grand. The only time that we've even come close to that was back in fiscal 19, and then I'm sure there's a reason, but otherwise 6,018, 3,820, and we've only spent less than 3 grand in 6 months to date. So do we really need 50 grand budgeted there? I don't know. Dam maintenance, another one at 50 grand. The highest in the last 3 years, 11,000 in fiscal 19. Otherwise, 3,000, 5,000, and 500 to date this year. Those are just two items to look at. Last year, we had $221,000 of total expenditure turnbacks. So again, this is great. That's great. We're budgeting conservatively, which is what we want to do. But in 19 we had 300, in 18 361. Now, I get cost increase so that that surplus or turnback has decreased over the last few years, but we're still conservative enough. I don't know if we should be really affecting our capital funding scenario in that sense. Again, we want to make sure that we have a solid budget in case a rate study is not put forward or approved. So sorry for the long-winded comment, but that's just one concern I have. Otherwise, I think the budget looks great.
Okay, who wants to talk about oil? Anyone?
What did you say, Lee?
Who wants to talk about milfoil?
The issue we had with the milfoil was when we harvested, we created some excess TOC issues. Carl wants to try the vacuum extraction again this year. I'm not sure what his quote is currently for that process.
I'm currently waiting for quotes. I have 2 parties that are interested. We have not done that since 2016, I believe. Brenda, you and I talked about it the other day.
Yeah, it was 2016, Carl.
And I would think we're talking in the vicinity of 20 to 30,000 for that project, which I anticipate moving forward with before the weeds start to grow this year. So probably March or April. We also have done no survey work in a number of years at the reservoir. That was something when I first came that we were doing several years, which was, I believe, around $3,000 a survey to keep track of the milfoil and see what the spread was. And that would probably be a good thing to do this year after last year's drought, to get a handle on whether or not it's increasing at the reservoir.
So that $20,000 to $30,000 project, is that a one-time cost? Or is that something you're saying needs to be done annually?
I wouldn't think annually, but I would think we need to probably get on a schedule of doing it every other year or every third year.
So we have 50,000 this year to do it before July 1st. If we were to reduce it to 25 for next year, so if we had to do it in the spring again, we'd be good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
no,
Things to consider. Like, I'm not saying we have to cut it or make any changes. I just want to make sure that some of these items, of course, we don't want it every year. So if this happens every third year, we don't have to worry about, do we have enough money every third year? We want to build in enough that we're consistent year to year to not see fluctuations. But, you know, if it's not $50,000 of work we're thinking, we should probably get that in line that's a little more reasonable so that we're not taking away from capital funding.
okay, the other question I have here too, though, is, let's see, how much does it cost for the benthic barrier? Because we have to put up a benthic barrier every year. Before Woodard and Curran came on board, we were having a lot of difficulties with milfoil during the summer with our intake, and we had to be cleaning the screens several times a day in order to work at the plant because they were getting clogged with the weeds. This is why we've been aggressive trying to do weed management, because it helps our process. So we would also have to look at how much it costs for the benthic barrier and for the extraction.
Brenda, do you pay for the benthic barrier out of milfoil?
Yes, I do.
And that runs around 3,000 to 4,000, I believe. And that includes installation and removal. Do you recall, Brenda?
Not off the top of my head.
You know, so what it sounds like, we're looking at, we need about 30,000 in that line item. 25 for extraction and 5,000 for the barrier that would have to be put up before the end of June. Possibly, I don't know. Am I reading this right?
Yeah, so that's what I put in, 30 grand.
Okay, so if we delete that, okay.
But then what about dam maintenance?
I decreased that to 25 grand for next year. In a no increase budget, I think it'd be fine.
Also, again, I want to understand if there's a need, if there's something we haven't been doing that we're trying to implement. Great, I'd love to know if 25,000 is something that will allow us to do what we think we need to do relating to our dam maintenance, then great. I'd love to see that reduced by 25 and put a little bit more in that capital line item.
I think if we continue to make progress at it, I think, yes, it can come down.
Okay, now Don, you understand this is not a regular concrete dam. This is just an earthen dam that is holding back all of that water.
Okay, now what is dam maintenance? In this line item, what kind of expenses, just for my general knowledge, are kind of included in this line item? Is it for companies to come out to reinforce the dam? Is it for testing? What kind of expenses are we looking at here?
It's mowing and tree removal, mostly.
Okay.
And maintenance of the structure, the weir gate, and the valve, the main valve. Of course, that was replaced back in 2012, so that is not an issue. But on the last dam report, they did recommend that the line be inspected, and I know that has not been done. The under drain pipe.
How is that something that can? Yeah, I'm not trying to get in your operational here, but if we've only spent 500 out of the 50 so far, is an inspection something that we can get done this fiscal year to identify if there are any issues that need to be?
The inspection itself, I think, runs around 4,000. Is that correct, Jason?
I don't know. We have to get a diver out there.
Right.
So,
Dam inspection is every 2 years, and then of course there are always items that are flagged that need to be attended to. So on the last inspection, there was a lot of work that when money was transferred out of the reserve fund to accomplish that work.
yeah, sorry,
Okay,
I
I
just want to
Brian
add that I think, you know, dam maintenance is something that, you know, in the past probably 5 years you probably could have spent a little bit more on that line item to do a better maintenance of the earth and dam, you know, mowing and weed whacking. Jason's done a lot in the recent kind of crack repairs and things up there, but it's something that you should keep on top of. I was down in the manhole probably after we put the valve in 2012, I want to say around 2015, and inspected the pipe upstream, but it hasn't been looked at since. So, you know, if you're going to get a diver out there, it's probably going to cost you a few grand a whack to get in there and get a video. But it hasn't been spent, but it's something that should be done.
But I agree, it could get done before July 1st and therefore come out of this year's 50,000.
Yeah.
If we have a no increase budget, we can decrease it to 25 grand for next year. If we have no increase, it'd
Fair.
still be okay.
Okay, you're comfortable with that, Brian?
Yeah, that sounds good. I was just getting into, so you have the Brook Dam, which is new, but you know, again, that's going to need some maintenance on the downstream slopes, and then you have the big tickets, the Aaron River one.
And then the only other item I was just curious about was, I know sludge removal, we're getting into more of a routine with that, so that 155 should be fine. What is considered under, sorry, Jason, what were you moving there?
No,
The
sorry.
general operating expenses, what kind of expenses are captured here? The 75,000?
Where are we looking? Oh,
Yeah.
that's everything. That's, I mean, everything, just general operating, things that we need for the plant, maintenance items. Usually system maintenance are larger ticket items. Extraordinary maintenance are for things that we didn't foresee, water main breaks, replacement of valves in the plant. But general operating is our pest control, cleaning, anything we buy at like Hingham Lumber, USA Blue Book, any stock
Okay.
items.
So that was is very variable year to year. So, all right, I'm good with that one. I was just curious, Brenda.
Okay.
And then
Thank you.
Dawn, I know you and I discussed this earlier, but if you're trying to get to a non-transfer, I mean to no deduct, I think I would be a little bit less conservative on the system development charge of two new water service connections and potentially go to 4.
Yeah, so I don't need it to be necessarily the full, you know, recoup that full 100 that we're talking about. I think what we've done so far makes me a little more comfortable.
It got you to 55 as a negative. But
Yeah,
that's what
so-
I'm saying. If I add another 20, which is real. I mean, we're not going to only have 2 new houses. If we have 4 new houses,
I think the last 2 years we budgeted 40 grand and that's been a pretty good number. So I'd be okay with that going to 40 or whatever.
yeah, it's
Or-
times, it'd be
Well, it would
times
be
2 because it's-
54.
Yeah, whatever 4 equates to, right, Lee? Yep.
Okay,
that's
one
54.
other thing, when
That gives you
Brendan
to 28,
worked on
Dawn.
the budget, we were very conservative in water use charges, and we only went back 3 years instead of 5.
Yes,
And-
I like the conservative approach. That is
My
If
great.
we
question
went
is-
back 5, it would give us more money.
But I was wondering, we're actually budgeting less than we did last year. If we were to make that equal to last year's, which was 2,000,005, would be another small incremental increase.
I think if you go to the bottom, I honestly think these couple of tweaks we made
is 2811 now.
is perfect. You know, fine, we took a little money out of the capital. We had a big, 5% increase in our Woodard and Kern, which is almost 45 or 50 grand. So, we made some of these changes, we moved some money around, and now we have 427 in our capital line. So I think I'm comfortable. I think that just these tweaks made this a lot more comfortable for me, at least, for going forward to select board or whoever else needs to hear the budget discussion. And then just one other note that Jason and I have been talking about within the debt service section and the transfer to capital line. If you go back to your,
Sorry.
yeah, so we know last year we authorized borrowing for Elm Street, water main, and the residuals at Lily Pond. So what I'm proposing to do in this spreadsheet is just based on the CIP that we have within the rate study, we know what we projected for that debt service once we borrow it. So I'm going to put in, I'd like to put in a line, with your approval, in the debt service section, essentially something like projects authorized, not yet borrowed. And so that would account for the projects that we've authorized that are going to start work. I believe Elm Street will be started in the spring, so that we're earmarking this money. It's not set in stone what the principal and interest is, so I don't want to allocate it to those line items, but essentially account for these two projects that we authorized so that we know in future budget years, we have this money set aside for the debt service once it does come online. So it'll just be a movement from line 56, transfer to capital. The number I came up with based on the CIP is 63,567. So we'll have that as a separate line just to show these projects we're expecting to borrow for that have already been authorized. And that transfer to capital will be reduced by that same amount. Does that make
That sounds
sense?
reasonable. Yeah.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, great.
All right. Do we have any other discussion on this budget? Let's flip to the next one. What, Steve, do you have a question?
Can we bring up in, I just had questions on the indirect cost. Is this not yet, or should we just kind of wait?
Probably we should do indirect costs. Go ahead.
It's more for Dawn. I as got education between Lee and and Jason on the budget stuff. I started looking at the indirect costs, and it sounded like I just looked at it like the treasurer collector, deputy treasurer collector, 2 to 3 hours, 3 hours, so you figure 6 hours a week times 52 is 300 hours. I mean, our billing is only 4 times a year. I mean, it seems that the hour seems pretty high for.
It's not just billing though, Steve. What else is included in operation?
In the receivables.
We still have to collect the money. We still have to post it. We still have to turn it over. We have to reconcile cash every month. That's all done in the treasurer collector's office. I'd love, we've gone through this year after year.
I'm a newbie.
A lot of pain. I feel we're comfortable. I'd love if you want to talk offline.
Yeah, I'm a newbie. It's just I get the rest. I mean, I was just curious. Just how do you come up with the numbers? That's all. I mean,
I got to be quite honest, Steve. This is something I inherited. This whole worksheet. The 2 to 3 hours could be looked at one point. I think based on my knowledge of what that staff does from water and sewer collections and everything they have to do in addition to just billing, I think average throughout the year, I think those numbers are okay. But again, I mean, if this is going to be another sticking point, I'd be happy to look at this more in detail next year. I don't think I have time to really go through and do a full out hourly analysis of the receipt, the postings, the billing at this point in time.
Okay, Don, I don't think they do the billing.
They work with
do the
CES and Brenda, and Brenda could speak to that a little more than I can because I'm not involved.
You do all the receivables. I do no receivables whatsoever.
They're doing receivables. They're not doing the payables for the billing, right? They're not sending out the bills. They're not populating the bills. They're only taking in the money, correct?
Correct, but it isn't just taking in the money. I mean, there's 3 different ways for them to get money now as it is. But it's not like it's streamlined and you press a button and it just goes. You know, they're working with 2 different systems. I talk to Linda daily, and I can honestly say daily in the treasurer collector's office.
Geez, I'll tell you, just a tax deferral issue we had this last year, she probably spent 20 hours
Oh,
on just
absolutely.
one family's tax deferral issue. So
Yeah, all of a sudden somebody was getting a tax deferral all these years, came into some money and wanted to pay it all back, and she wanted to make sure it was done appropriately, that we got all of our monies and whatnot. And yeah, it took, I would say, minimum 20 hours. Minimum on that
I mean,
one.
on an average, yeah, some weeks probably less, some weeks probably more, but a lot of the receipts that I get weekly from the treasurer's office to post to the accounting system are water and sewer turnover.
And
I know
when
sewer doesn't relate to you, but
every day when I come in, or when I turn the computer on in the morning, what I usually do is I download a file directly from the treasurer's office. So if I get a call from the customer to see if they owe any money and whatnot, and there isn't a day that I go in and I download that there hasn't been some transaction done to water and sewer. There just isn't.
That's really amazing that it's done every day.
yeah, I mean, these are collections. We want to make sure these are collected, turned over, and posted timely. So they're getting files from banks. They're getting direct payments from people. I mean,
and I know
that goes into it. And unfortunately, it's not all automatic. We can't just press a button and everything gets posted. We have to go
And
through
I know when
processes.
somebody drops a check off to town hall, if there isn't like a stub with it, it's a little bit more involved because there has to be backup for that payment. So something as simple as paying your bill, if you didn't put that stub with it, they got to print another one out because there's got to be backup for it. And I think it just because it's municipality, it's the rules.
Yeah. You know, but you figure in today's technology world with everything changing so much that it would become a little more streamlined, but whatever. Do we have any other questions about this?
We will look into, eventually we're going to have to look into new software at one point. So hopefully we can find an option that's a little more streamlined. That isn't crazy expensive either. I'm sure Steve's familiar with Munis. I think they use that over in Hingham. I know at least on their town side. I'm assuming their light department also uses that.
No, we got rid of Munis. We're in Dynamic Cogsdale.
Okay. Munis just has a huge price tag and just something I think is a little more streamlined in its approach, but the price tag is just too much for a community our size. So anyway, I mean, I think these are reasonable based on all the work we've done over the last few years of making everybody kind of comfortable with these allocations. If there really is an issue, I'd love to look into it next year. Or we'll just kind of keep it as is.
Okay.
And one other thing, we might look at the office space that we are renting out to the town. But that'll be for next year. Okay, do you want to go on to the next budget, the rate study budget? Who wants to do that, Don or Jason?
I can do it.
Jason?
So this one here, we took the water use revenue from the rate study. I actually took Brenda's calculation of the capital recovery fee and just multiplied it by 2.5%. The other things all pulled forward, hydrant fees, and this one has the lower system development charge, as at this point we can be conservative again.
Mhm.
And it has the same budget that we had for the other one. It leads to a $800,000 transfer to capital for capital projects.
Jason, can you repeat that last part? I'm sorry.
So then that then leads to an $800,000 transfer to capital.
And so on this, I just gotta point out, this is heavily relying on us going forward. Obviously, the rate study being approved, but this is really a big driver of this is a GAC filtration system. So of that 800, a lot of that is accounted for once those projects are approved. So I would almost break those out. Like I said last time, we already know that we've approved 2 projects in authorized bonding. If we're going to do that for this, out of that 800 comes about 280,000 of debt service in future years. Once again, unless give or take, depending on SRF funding and stuff like that. But that is based on our CIP right now is 280,000 a year for 20 years. But also in there is 300 or 325,000 of ongoing operating costs related to the filtration system. So right there is almost $600,000 that comes out of that 800. So I just want to make that note that once that comes online, we don't have 800,000 a year for capital. It's being accounted for with the filtration project and the ongoing operation and maintenance of that filtration.
Any questions?
I have no questions.
No questions.
Okay, well, one other thing that, as Don brought up, the maintenance of the GAC, we don't know what the future costs of that are going to be also, and we don't know what other state regulations we may have that they may determine to put on us or whatever. So we are always in that sort of nebulous netherworld here, hoping that what we're doing covers our expenses. All right, so if we have no questions, does anyone want to make a motion about voting on these 2 budgets?
Could I just make one other comment? If we, to be consistent with the amount available for capital, we should make the same changes in this budget as the other one. So milfoil, the dam maintenance, the connection fees.
And development charge?
Yeah, so that those 2 or 3 same adjustments we made on the no increase, we should make on the increase so that because again, that 800,000 that we're saying we're going to have for capital each year is reduced right away by the actual debt service on that project and then the ongoing maintenance, operation and maintenance that we don't know that true cost yet until the filtration system is implemented.
But Don, my pushback on that would be potentially there is work that's not currently being done as far as milfoil and dam maintenance that should be being done. That could account for that money. I could spend that money potentially if chosen to, but.
Can I ask why we haven't done it then? In 4 years, I'm looking at data of 4 years. Why hasn't any of that been done yet?
Well, a portion of the dam maintenance I've been paying for out of the allocation at town meeting to do dam maintenance, the $275,000 vote.
The Aaron River Dam project?
Yeah, some of that work would have been dam maintenance work if it hadn't been done under that. So like the tree removal out there and issues like that. The crack repairs, those repairs should be being done on a more regular basis, not in one big giant $250,000 allotment. So if we're more proactive, and yes, I'm still spending that money. I know we still have money left in that article. I just reached out to the guy today about fixing the fish ladder. That's still an outstanding issue. But we could spend, in like to Brian's point, the downstream side of Beechwood Street Dam, it needs to have tree removal. It hasn't been done. It should be done. I just don't have enough hours in my schedule to schedule all this stuff. So it doesn't get done.
Okay. And if, you know, if that's the case, that's the case. I just want to, so that's where looking at we're going to have to look at the capital improvement plan every year. Make sure that we're all on the same page of what projects need to get funded, when, you know, layering in retained earnings to pay for some stuff to help offset that service. Because again, that 800,000 after this year, once you start borrowing, that roll off kind of goes away, because now you're just layering in debt and you're trying to stay within the same amount of capital expenses every year that within your budget. So that 800,000, once you pull out 280 of debt service for that GAC project, another 65 for the two projects we already authorized, 300 for operating, leaves you maybe 200 grand. And now I can already see that we have a few water main projects in fiscal 23 that will add another, you know, if done, 180 grand of debt service for 20 years.
But
So-
these dam maintenance and milfoil numbers are in the rate study. So they're already included in the projections of costs and revenue.
Okay, as long as that's taken care of, then that's fine.
Those were the numbers we carried. So
Okay.
50 and 50 was what was in the rate study. I don't disagree that if we can't spend the money, then yeah, come back. And like I said, I wish I had more time, but I don't. To
Jason,
do
my
it.
screen's black.
Is everybody else's?
No.
Mine's fine.
Yep.
You do to me, Jason.
I'll stop sharing.
Thank you. I'm back.
Okay.
Uh,
Here's one other little thing I just want to bring up as I was signing warrants the other day that I noticed, because we've been doing some hydrant repairs, and we all are aware of that one that was done on Cedar Street with the valve that had to be replaced. And I don't know if people realize that we spent $3,300 for detail services just for that one project. So, I mean, we have to constantly keep in mind that we have large detail costs in a lot of what we do. Because we had to use fire there. We had to use fire when we were doing the Aaron River project, or the break over there. So this is just something else that, you know, if we see high numbers, this is another side of it that we have to cover. Okay. So do we want to make a motion to accept these two budgets going forward?
Go ahead, John.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the two budgets as presented with the modifications discussed at this meeting. The one assuming no increase in rate, and the other one assuming that the rates study does get approved. So I move that we approve those two budgets.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous by the three of us. Okay, next is the rate study presentations. Who's jumping in? Jason, Don?
Only
Well,
thing
that's
I
a tough-
have on that is that I talked to Chris earlier, is that if we're gonna go through with the rate study proposal, we should try to get in front of the Board of Selectmen in early February meeting. I believe he mentioned early February, just to get the ball rolling, start to be able to put together any responses to questions that may be out there from the board. You know, that's a good starting point, using any of the questions they have to build off either a document to be able to explain to the public why we need this rate increase and what it's going to do for our infrastructure and stuff like that. But that's really the only comment I have on the presentations at this point.
Thanks, Tom.
I've been working on it when I have time.
Okay, now I know previously we've had joint meetings with advisory and selectmen. Any of that would fly for presentation early on.
Yeah, I could talk to Chris about scheduling a joint. We can have that agenda item as a joint meeting. I know we've done it before where during a meeting, I think they entered into a joint meeting for an agenda item. So we should be able to do that with them.
Yeah, well, before this whole mess, we were having them over at the Wilcott Center.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think these meetings are gonna still be on Zoom.
Yes, I think so, but I think we probably need a joint, getting advisory on board as soon as possible too. So talk to
agree.
Chris to see how he feels, whether or not to do it with selectmen or 2 individual meetings, and let us know as soon as possible.
All right, I'll touch base with him today, and then we can kind of come up with a game plan on how we want to attack this.
Thank you.
Okay. And as far as timing goes, that's good to know. Don, do we feel that we're ready for early February to go forward with this? Hopefully we can.
I mean, I think so. I mean, we just talked through the budget, both scenarios. I mean, really, it's just a matter of explaining to them. You know, we kind of piggybacked off what Time Bond had done from their study. We updated for, you know, some more accurate figures, and we found some error. We don't have to say that we found errors, but we updated it for some more accurate figures in our capital improvement plan, and that's really the big driver behind the need of the increase at this point, is to cover our capital needs based on the capital improvement plan that, you know, Jason and the commissioners in Wood and Kern have gone through to identify what we need over the next 10 or 20 years. So I think we're ready. It's a matter of, we already have some base level spreadsheets or presentations from last year that we can just kind of reuse and update. I believe we have access to those, right, Jason?
Yeah, that's what I've been, as I have time, whenever I have time, I'm working on updating that.
So I really think the big part is just walking them through it. Whoever we meet with, is just kind of walking them through the reasoning and what it means. Why do we need to increase year over year? And it's really the big driver is capital. And then
Okay,
from those meetings, we can come up with our answers as a group, and so that it can almost be a public document as to, these are the questions about the study, and here are the answers, and we can, I think, work off that.
I think what we're doing, instead of just mentioning capital improvement plan, is also making sure they understand that we are under the state mandate for regulations for TTHM and PFAS, which is a big driver in what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I mean. So the big driver is the big filtration system program, and my understanding is that is part of the PFAS issue is filtrate. So it kind of intertwines with the reasoning for this increase.
The other thing
Yeah,
that's
but I
going to
think
be,
people don't understand that about the PFAS. No one is talking about it. No one really comprehends what that is.
And this is where I'm going to need to rely heavily on all of you folks. I can run through the numbers back and forth for the most part, but to explain the need for this big project in the PFAS and what it means to the water system, I'm going to definitely need all your help to really educate the select board advisory and the rest of the community on that.
yeah, and Jason will be there, right? Jason, you'll be presenting?
Yep.
And the other thing, just to remember quickly from last year, we started going through this process before COVID hit. And the kind of roadblock we were getting, my recollection is from the Board of Selectmen, was they kept asking, well, what do other towns charge for their water? And how do we compare? And Jason started doing an analysis on that. And we have to go into it, I think, trying to focus this select board on, you've got to look at our water plant as somewhat of a unique situation based upon our water source, our number of customers, and what we need to do to maintain it, as opposed to just trying to compare us to other towns. But that may be difficult.
I think it's always difficult to compare town to town when you don't have the same rate structure. You don't have the same operating program, really. It's really hard to compare.
Customer base.
Right.
But that's what happened last year, isn't it, Jason?
Yep. But like I said, I think we go through the first one without talking about that. And then if it comes up, that'll be a frequently asked question that we can bring up in the second time around, saying, so people have asked how we compare. And then I think I did show you guys the state. I mean, the Mass Water Works has a website of, you can look for other like-sized communities and not necessarily our neighbors, and compare to like size communities, not, well, I'll compare to neighbors too when the time comes, but also towns that are the same size as us in the same type of town.
But we also have the problem that we have that big loan. And a lot of other towns don't have that. So, you just can't say, well, how come? And it's a situation where we got involved in maintenance at some point, and look at Situate got involved later. And we don't know what other towns are doing. And don't forget the difference between wells and surface water. There's night and day. But
Yeah,
it's-
Jason, you showed us that that spreadsheet had the comparisons to like the similar, slight similar system, customer base, and that was very helpful. Where that was, Agawam or something.
Yeah, it was like
Some-
Mattapoisett, Marion,
Yeah,
smaller coastal communities with small customer bases, but high costs.
that's good reference material right there.
I mean, the one that was the closest though was surprisingly, if you use a 1-inch meter, Hingham. Hingham's water is right there with Cohasset's as far as cost, if you look at a 1-inch meter.
Yep.
Average customer 1-inch meter.
And so that's good reference material to have, as in your side pocket for when you present to the select board and advisory.
But it'll be interesting to see where Hingham is in another year, because they have a lot of maintenance issues to contend with too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, and they just hired a new consultant. They're spending a lot, right, on the company managing their plant.
Yeah.
So,
And
So
they also,
the whole
Yeah.
sales pitch to buying it was they're going to reduce the cost. But I know the person who was managing it, Steve Olson, he had real improvements that needed to happen, and improvements mean rate increases. That's life. If you want to maintain your system, the price goes up. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a profit when it's a private company, but most of the increases were due to maintenance. So if they choose to put off the maintenance, it is what it is, but they're most likely not going to be able to put it off.
but,
I agree.
okay, do we have any other questions about this so we can let Don go?
I think the only question I have on this is what are next steps for getting these meetings scheduled and getting on the agendas?
I will talk to Chris this afternoon on my ride home and just see what his thoughts are and what the next, I'd love to do the joint meeting idea, try to knock it out one time, well, at least the first round with both groups.
I actually have a meeting with him after this, Don, so I might, if you don't talk to him
Oh.
before I do, I will talk to him.
Then how about, if you have a meeting, how about you talk to him right after this then?
Yeah, I got a
What he said.
5:30 with him on town hall.
Okay, so Jason, will you work on getting us on the agenda, the next agenda, and hopefully a joint meeting as Lee suggested?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, next is Detector Tech analysis.
Have a good night,
So-
everybody.
Thank you too, Don.
See you, Don.
So I sent you
Hey,
over
Rod.
the two proposals. There's actually two at this point. One is for $6,800 to extend the testing for the piloting. So we have the equipment still rented through the end of February. It's included in the contract. But the good news is the carbon didn't get spent as quickly as they projected it to. So they haven't got fully into biological mode. So they want to do another month's worth of analysis to get a good handle on the biological mode and level of removal in biological mode. This will lead to, when we go to full scale build out, a real understanding of frequency of carbon change out in helping determining what the best options are for that. So that's $6,800. The other proposal was for a capacity analysis. There's a lot of questions as to what the capacity of the plant really is. It was originally designed for 3 million gallons a day on max day. We don't achieve that. We're usually around 2.6. We want to look at the capacity in far as we build out the GAC, what size, what's the flow rate we should be designing for, and also trying to determine if there's a pinch point in the process that we might be able to modify to increase the capacity back to the 3 MGD. So those are the two items. The original town meeting vote was for $300,000. The first contract was for $119,500. Piloting was the additional piloting was $6,800. Capacity analysis was $19,930. After all that's done, we'd still have $153,770 in that allocation. I think they're both worthwhile to get done.
Okay, just to re-clarify here, the facilities study that we're doing of the plant.
Yep.
That is being done by is that being done by Tetra Tech in this
Yes.
whole? Okay.
Yes. So in the end too, the capacity analysis will feed into part of the CIP is rating the criticality of equipment. So this will help in determining the true criticality of some of the pieces too, versus just assuming the rated capacity. They're going to actually analyze the capacity to determine how critical a piece is and how much water we can produce if one specific piece is out of service.
Okay, does anybody want to make a motion to continue on with the Tetra Tech addendums?
I'll make a motion that we continue with the Tetra Tech addendums.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously accepted.
Thank you.
So we should be able to get a report in another 6 weeks or so,
Yep.
maybe.
Still projected for February.
Okay,
They're coming in to do the walkthroughs. I didn't put it in my calendar. I want to say it's the first week in February. I can confirm that.
okay.
Asset management update. Both Fred and I continue to work forward on this. We had a meeting earlier this week to look at what the potential full system would look like. They have it implemented in Plymouth. So we had some comments and questions about that, and as well, Jonathan is in the process of still filling in the gap in the database system from where I ended in the bulk upload to today. He said he should have that done by the end of the week. And then starting after that, adding additional parameters from historic data once that's completed.
Okay, any questions?
No questions.
Okay.
390 CJC. So you guys got the request from the owner to to connect their fire service and test the fire suppression system. We actually went back out this week. Back before Thanksgiving, they had gone out and pressure tested chlorinated, and it passed inspection, the water main itself, but the owner never turned the pipe on. So we requested them to go back out and retest for bacteria. They did that this morning. If that test passed, then we will open the pipe up to allow the use of the hydrants out in front of the building and to include that loop in the water system that you guys had agreed to at a prior meeting to do. But the question came and I wasn't clear. I thought my understanding was that they could use the pipe simply as a means of fire protection through the hydrants as your approval at the last meeting, but I wasn't clear. So I wanted to put that back to you guys as to, can they connect to the building, either fire service wise or domestic before they pay their fee?
Well, the question is, why haven't they paid the fee yet?
Right.
That's it. You know, it's like giving somebody a free car. They know they have to pay and they should pay. Then this wouldn't have to be a discussion. And you can give them all the water they want, pending all the meters.
Well, they paid for independent inspection. That would have been free.
I know.
They had paid the connection fee. It's just, sometimes things don't make sense to me, but.
Is there any legal issues if you say no? I mean, if you don't
I
get the
don't
fine.
think so. I mean, they could potentially come back if the building burns down and say it's our fault because we didn't connect them, but it's their own doing by not paying the fee. And right now, they're only asking to connect to test their sprinkler system, I believe.
Yeah.
Fire protection system within the building. And like Steve said, if they want to use our water, they should pay our fee. If they want to test their fire suppression system and they don't want to pay our fee, they should get a truck with water in it, like one of those big trucks that fills up pools, connect it to their fire suppression system and test it that way. It may cost them a lot of money to do that, but I don't think they should be using our water until they pay our fee.
I agree.
Well, according to our regulations, they had to pay our fees.
Right.
Well, the other
Correct.
option, John, could be, if they did want to do that, I guess semantically saying they could pay our hydrant fee and use a meter on a hydrant to fill their water, their thing for pressure test, but we're not turning on the fire service line. That's an option. So they could connect to the fire hydrant for water to pressurize their system, but they can't connect to the fire service line to pressure test their system.
So would that be an application for a new meter?
No, that would be the typical fee you charge for an irrigation guy to go out and use a hydrant for irrigation.
It's a $550 fee. I think we call it a hydrant rental fee. Non-refundable.
That's a
They
good
would
thing.
pay that fee plus they'd pay for the water they use.
Yep.
Yep.
But could they be using that water in their building for any length of time without paying our fee to get water in the building?
Well,
Would
the
be
other
a
thing you got
fire hose
too,
from
they're
a
not
hydrant.
hooked up to sewer. There's no septic system there. There's nothing in place. So if they wanted to test toilets or anything, there's no place for it to go to.
Yeah.
I'm just afraid of,
No, I'm
okay,
saying, you're talking
open-
about a line going across the ground. I'm talking about connected to a fire hydrant out front with a fire hose to the building. It's not something he can leave in place. I'm giving it out versus making him get a truck of water. You know, we can provide him water, like you're saying, John, to do a test, but we're not giving it to you through the pipe in the ground. You can connect to the hydrant through our hydrant connection fee. The other
Could we
question
s-
that came up, and it gets to the question, and I asked the building inspector and he wasn't sure. Is there a value in testing the system and then depressurizing it? You may have to retest it again. So I don't, it's a weird catch-22 that it needs to be clear too, that the water will be shut off. If you did ever allow it, it means we're going to shut you back off. And I think you're opening up personally more liability, letting them turn it on and then turning it off than you are just saying no.
I tend to agree with you on that, Jason.
Yeah, I think we say no. To have
Yeah.
them pay our fee. Give them some, they've got to pay our fee.
I mean, at this point, the building's pretty much almost looks like near completion. I mean,
Well,
you know, they should be paid, should have paid the fee already.
well, it is that catch-22, like Brenda said, they don't have anywhere for the wastewater to go. So what's the point of paying your fee? There's nowhere to flush the toilets. There's literally nowhere to flush the toilet.
Right, and they haven't made any showing to us as to why they're not paying us. I'm sure they're deciding not to pay us and to pay other people, but they haven't shown that if they're getting a line of credit or a loan, that they've gone out to ask for more to pay us. They seem to be making no effort at all to pay for this connection. So I don't see why we should be bending our rules to accommodate them.
Have they paid sewer at all? Do you know?
Well, do they have a permit to put in any type of septic?
There's no sewer. They have not paid or really come to an agreement with sewer.
And the septic is on the state level at this point. It's not a Board of Health question anymore.
Oh,
Because it looks like also the Cook property has a problem with septic in that area. So that is a very highly fragile area.
so Jason, what do you what do you suggest?
I'd just say no.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you
Pay
there.
the fee and no.
Yeah. I mean, you have to. It's like, you know, something, new residents going up, you have to pay the fee.
Tell them put in battery operated fire alarms and the fire department come and put out the fire.
But Jason, could they actually get that meter put on the fire hydrant if they applied?
I don't know if you'd even want to go there because it gets to that weird question of.
No, but could they apply for it?
They
Just
could.
for that?
They could request a meter connection.
At that point, you would have to
Say yes.
You have to say yes.
If they ask for a hydrant connection, yeah, it's $500 and you pay the water they use.
All right.
Well, I would not do that as an upfront to them. Let them come.
No,
if they want to do that, but otherwise, I agree with everything that said that we don't want to open a can of worms if we don't have to.
Right. Right now, they have not made that request. They're only requesting that we hook up town water to their building. That's what's before us.
To charge their fire suppression system.
Right.
to test the fire suppression.
Yes, yes.
So I make a motion that we deny the request by 390 Chief Justice Cushing Highway to connect to town water until they paid our fee.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Okay, do we have an update on leak detection?
I'll leave that to Fred and Carl.
Carl?
Yes, we have already contracted with the gentleman that conducted the last survey 2 years ago. It is a permit requirement. And charge, I think, is right around $4,600 to do the entire town. And I felt that the gentleman that we had last time, he was very conscientious and did a good job. We will be doing this right after our annual flushing.
Carl, you were saying that based on the good price, you were going to potentially do it every year at this point?
We do it every other year.
But I thought you were going to potentially do it every year now?
No. No, I mean, we could, but we find leaks, but not a lot of leaks.
Well, what is our percentage of unaccounted for water right now?
Last year was just under 10%, and rough numbers right now, I'm looking at around 11%.
Well, isn't 10% sort of,
That's the cutoff. If we don't meet the 10%, then we have to do additional items, leak detection being one of them. And so that's been in the permit for years. Conservation issues, it's just public education. DEP has a list of items that we have to proceed with if we cannot stay under 10%.
well, I think we probably should see what the outcome is of this test this year and then make a decision. If it's 9.5%, I would go for a second year too in a row.
Okay.
Bring it down. Any
One-
questions about that?
Well, so once these leaks, if you find the areas of various leaks area, do we go and fix the leaks?
Yes, most certainly.
Okay. Okay.
Just on a side note for leak detection, on the off years, if you go every other year, our staff can use pretty generic listening devices to listen on hydrants, on water services when they're doing meters and so forth. We can pick up noise, and then we can hire somebody to come in to correlate specific locations that we think we have an issue. And then do that sort of, I would do that every year, but take that approach as well internally with our staff.
Okay.
We actually do call the surveyors in if we are unable, if we have a leak and cannot pinpoint it. I mean, we've been doing that for a number of years.
Okay. I've seen it done in Hingham. I was with the guy for an old building, and we couldn't find the actual leak, and they had this thing right in the ground. He's like, it's right here, and it was like 9 feet down. It was amazing. He let me listen to it too. So, okay.
Yeah, now I noticed there are some people who do have leaks from their service connection to their meter. And have you all seen those commercials about the insurance they have out there? Because I know a friend in Cohasset who happens to be on Hingham Water. She had a leak in her lawn and she was out of water for 3 days while they fixed it. So
Lee, just to that note, I was the first utility in Connecticut to start that program for Southington about 12, 13 years ago. And we generated about $100,000 a year in revenue from it. And we'd averaged not very many leaks a year. I think we repaired, on my exit, maybe 13 leaks overall while since the program's inception. I mean, there's some, you need to be able to market it the right way. There are companies out there and utilities that offer that service that it would definitely be worth looking into. At least have somebody come in and do a presentation for you.
I did it I implemented that in Harwich and it came to the same thing. It can make money. It only makes money though if you get enough people in to start.
It's good to start with a utility that offers it. They get the marketing off the ground and all the heavy lifting, and then you kind of get an idea, and then you would collect a percentage of their revenue being in the program and allowing them to do it. And typically they're pretty good. They don't really Monday morning quarterback you. If there's an issue on an old service and we make the decision, we're going to replace the whole service from the curve valve into the house. Typically they'll say, okay, we're going to go on your judgment. And it worked out very well for me. And I do know people in New England who manage those programs. If there's an interest, we could certainly continue that conversation.
That would be interesting to see.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought of that after the first couple were here talking about they had no insurance for their leak in their irrigation system, but that's something else. Okay, and I noticed as I was driving down Cushing Road today that we are starting to get more brush accumulation, especially in that corner that we have worked on for several years, cleaning out, but I just don't know how to approach the people anymore about it. This is, yeah,
Yeah, I told Lee, she told me about it today. I'm gonna move the cameras to that location. I still have one charging in my office. I didn't get out there today. Versus where they are currently to see if we can catch anything.
you know, maybe we should talk to 143 TV and go on and do some type of presentation about what's happening with our water system, how we're getting some pollution, what the PFAS situation is. And maybe trying to encourage CSCR to do some testing up in Beechwood, because very few people realize that Bound Brook goes directly into Cohasset Harbor. And I know since CSCR is involved in the harbor, they should be looking to see all kinds of situations, but
That does remind me, because he did agree to helping us. I sent out that thing, and we forgot to put it on the agenda. I guess it can go under the other piece. The sampling equipment I wanted to get to the tune of whatever it was, a couple $1,000 to do the sampling out in the watershed, which would then hopefully I'm going to try and pull in Jack's students to support that. Is that something you guys would be okay with?
yes.
Moving forward with?
Yes.
Okay. I will work with Brenda on getting all that stuff.
Okay, do we have, let's see, how about meeting notes approval?
Yes, I have two. I make a motion that we approve the November 12th, 2020 meeting minutes and the December 8th, 2020 meeting minutes.
John, those were already approved at the last meeting.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So we're
Okay.
waiting December 15th meeting notes.
All right, that's the meeting that I missed because I didn't have any power, so I don't think I can vote on that.
Okay, because the meeting notes went around and around, so if
Yep.
somebody wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the December 15th meeting of
I
2020.
All right.
I second it.
All in favor?
So 2 out of the 3 of us did it since
Yeah.
John was unable to attend. Do
So
we,
John, I'll send you that if you can sign that third one,
Sure, I will.
and then that way you can just drop them off to me.
But do I have to just sign the November 12th and the
Yes,
December 8th?
yeah.
Okay.
Sign those
All right.
ones as well.
All right.
do we have any commission comments?
I have a
No
comment.
comments.
I have one comment. Who's Miriam? Somebody by the name of Miriam is on.
Miriam?
Sorry, I had trouble unmuting. I'm the HR director for the town of Cohasset.
Oh, okay. I thought it was you, but I needed to make sure so it goes into my notes.
Yes,
Okay, Miriam, are we conducting our meeting the correct way?
so far, I think so.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
So we have to put Miriam in as one of our attendees.
Yep.
And
I
in
got
the
it.
beginning of the meeting, when we started, Carl was not on yet, so we did not list Carl Hilstrup as one of our attendees either. Okay, do we have a motion? Oh, wait, do we want to discuss the next meeting? Wait until we see what's happening with Jason and Don about doing a meeting with selectmen?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree.
The
And
other question I have though too is, I don't know what's happening in the schools. Are there still going to be a February vacation?
As of now, there still is. It has not been canceled, but things change day to day. Is that
All right,
your
so we'll
understanding,
just-
Steve?
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
just the daily reports from the superintendent. That's it.
All right, so we'll
Also,
just
keep in
plan
mind,
later on. Bob.
Your interconnect meeting, you haven't had one. If you guys want to get back on board with those again, or just hold off for another month or so till we get this stuff put aside. Just throwing it out there.
Well, do you want to see if we can schedule a February meeting with Interconnect and ours at the same time? Once we figure out what's happening with the school and everything else?
Yeah, why don't, yeah, we'll just wait to see what we come up with the schools first, but I just wanted to throw it out there, interconnect.
All right, so want to try and do an Interconnect at that time?
Yes,
Sure.
Okay, Steve, is that all right with you?
Yeah, I was just asking Melissa that she hasn't heard anything about February vacation being canceled. Just it's on par to happen. So
Okay, so, well, we won't plan a meeting that week. Just in case anybody is trying to do anything with family. Okay, if nothing else, I make a motion to adjourn our meeting at 5:18.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Aye, that was unanimous. I want to thank everyone who has attended and have a nice evening.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
See everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.